Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, crypto traders worldwide. It's really early. It's like 3:45 a.m. my time. And I'm not supposed to be awake, but something went weird with that tortilla and it knocked me out. I'm not sure why. Regardless, I'm here. It might have also been that supplement I took, but regardless, or you know what? Yeah. I took some allergy medication. That's what did it. I'm sure that's what it did it. Anyhow, I digress. I am covering a token. And just to be clear, this token, I'm not, this will be injected in the episode that I do for the full podcast entry. But I wanted to get the token one out because what happened is I woke up at like 3 a.m., not realizing why I fell asleep so darn early. But I woke up at 3 a.m. and I'm looking at my wallet real quick to make sure nothing went catastrophically wrong. And I noticed one of my holdings, which has been kind of on and off. I bought in, I've sold it, I bought in again, sold it, and I watched his performance and I'm looking at the rewards and the rewards aren't working and I'm not sure why. And I finally solved that mystery today. And I figured I would talk about the token because as I looked at it, I'm like, this guy should not be failing, but I think I know the reason why it's failing. I don't want to say failing, that's not fair. Why it's not succeeding. I think that's better stated. So the token is called BODA, in my BODA Schlinger. That's a big pun reference, but BODA, BODA token.org is the website for this. And again, I've been on and off on this one. It's on the Binance Smart Chain. And I initially, when I bought in because I happened to notice it. Its fundamentals seemed sound at the time. Didn't see any concerns. Didn't see anything that was a negative per se. And it had a low cost of entry and figured I would go ahead and take a risk on it with a little bit of money. So I go ahead and I do that, and immediately I'm seeing it's not performing hardly at all, and I'm not really sure what's wrong. So I'm digging a little deeper. I didn't initially notice it, but today I started noticing it when I was, woke up and couldn't get back to sleep and figured, you know what, let me just go ahead and cover this so I don't forget. Because I was going to cover a different token, but this one stands out so much, I think it's worth taking the episode to cover it first before I do this other one, because the other one, I'm covering it to kind of warn you. This one, I'm covering it to share feedback. If they hear it, they may not hear it, but I'll share it on social media because I do want to help them. I think that I'm pretty sure I'm confident why they're kind of on the decline and why it's hard for them to get back to stability. And hopefully there are things easily fixed. So let me talk about this real quick. So the way they describe themselves is that the token's intent and purpose is to basically be supportive of passive income. We've talked about the concept of passive income instead of the rush to reflections, but rather that you generate passive rewards. And this one pays you, or supposed to pay you. I'll get to that in a second. In Binance USD, which is a stable coin, and it just goes automatically to your wallet. You can manually claim it, and they claim up to 19% of rewards. And there's a separate fund for this. It's fully audited. They have an audit by both CertiK and Desert Hercules, because it's one of the very few I've seen that have purposely gone after the top dogs, both top dogs, I think, in the audit space to get their project vetted and make sure that it's clean and reviewed sound so that your investors have a confidence in buying into the project. When I looked at the review, let's take Desert Finance, for example. Most of what was called out was low risk, zero risk. There wasn't anything that they called out that was overtly terrible. They've since done some major rewrites to the website. So the website looks and flows a little bit better than what it did. They were pretty good on the mobile side, and I'm ecstatic to see that they were considerate of mobile accessibility. So when you build a website, you want to make sure that it works on a mobile interface as well as a full. That was great. It looks like they spent a lot of time on it, the website and the token and the tokenomics. They also seem to have a very strong community aspect to them. And they tell us about locations, and they're fully doxed and fully known. Like they've done an excellent job in the way that they've presented this up front. And then this is V2 of that same token. So the reviews that have been done for the code have been done for, I believe it was V1 initially, but they onboarded V2 as far as this recent audit results. When you look at the audit, it's actually V2 audits. On the CertiK side, as I've mentioned before, CertiK tends to call things out that are major where I don't think they're major, or they're minor and I think they should be major or whatever. So while I consider CertiK kind of credible, I do have concerns sometimes with some of their ways that they do it. Now, here's what's unique about BODA is they acknowledge in their what they call their green paper, which is their version of the white paper, and I want to talk about that in a second, but they acknowledge the functions that are exposed, the things that you could theoretically use to, affect somebody's stake as an investor, right? And it's a PDF, Hercules. It's not the Get book garbage. It's a great, and the thing is, it's a very well done white paper. I won't say it's better than Parabolic because there's a lot of TBA in it, and we're months after the fact. By now, you should have filled in the TBAs. So that's the one differentiator. If it was a complete white paper where it doesn't have any TBA, TBD, TBC, TBD, TB, whatever, if it was fully vetted, fully filled out, had all the details and all the data, it would be a perfect white paper. But because it has gaps in the data, I can't give you that top score. Parabolic still wins. However, it is a well done white paper for what it is. It's easily second on the list. You know what? Third, because Dozilla is still superior to this one. But it's a well done white paper. I'm not criticizing the white paper. I'm saying that I want more data. Don't give me TBA, TBA, TBA. Give me more than what you're giving me in that one. But in the white paper, they spell out the actual functions that could be used by the owner and why they're there and what they do. They transparently disclose this up front to say, this is what these do. This is why they're here, so that you're aware. And this, again, directly contrasts against the CERTIC audit about functions that the owner goes to the centralization of privilege risk that they called out, which they called it as major. They're saying, yep, it's here, and here's why they're there, and here's what they do. So they're being transparent, or as much as they can, about why they do that. So it is not a renounced ownership project. And the reason they did that is because they learned from V1. The story they told was that in V1, everything was locked down. And as a result, they couldn't make the changes they wanted to make. And if you've listened to any of my past episodes, you've heard me say, I don't support locking everything down just to react to the vocal minority out there that believes that you lock everything and that's the only way to mitigate risk, because we know that's not true. I think you lock everything down once you have everything sorted and everything's clean. It's what you want, and you're not going to make any changes, and there's no other risk. But that usually takes, maybe a year or so after the fact. Don't do it up front. And so V1 apparently had the same issue Para-Inu did, where they decided to react to what the vocal were saying and just lock everything down, and then it caused issues, and so they launched a V2. V2 looks like it's a much stronger contract. It looks like it's a more robust contract. They didn't change the inventory. Hercules. So a lot of thought's been put into this, and I think it's a strong overall project. And I'm giving kudos to them, not just for the paper itself, but the content of the messaging. They're telling me the why. They're telling me what it does, and at the core, this is what it's supposed to do, and this is what your value is supposed to be. They prioritize getting audits done. They're fully doxed on the front. Like, they're working to try to gain your trust. It's not about whether it's locked or not. They're actively doing things that should engender trust in them. They've spent a lot of money getting featured on various sites. They call it, we're getting this exposure. It's true, but they paid for it. That's okay, because it means that they're trying to increase awareness in the project, because right now that's been a shortfall for them, is making sure more people are aware of it. When you look at the overall tokenomics of the project, so you earn the Binance USD, that's your rewards. So 6% of all buys, 13% of all sales get distributed. Now, I have an issue with the way that they did this, because if you heard me talk about other tokens where they have a similar mechanic, what happens is they'll say, well, you got to hold a minimum of X in order to get those rewards. I don't support that. I'm not a fan of it. I understand why you do it, but I think there's a better way to do it, which is you just simply accumulate it and then you pay it out less frequently. I don't think that anybody should be excluded from rewards, because it's still an uncertain project. You don't have the volume to even make it justified, because the payout of this is based on buys and sells. Well, the volume is way down. So this is problem number one I would call out. Your volume is way down, and as a result, people aren't getting the rewards that were promised. When we say up to 19%, yeah, but that's assuming that you're getting hot and heavy volume. And when you're doing things where somebody has to hold $3 billion, and to be fair, that's not a lot of money. It's the principle of the thing. Please don't do that. Don't put the minimums in place. Just say, if you don't, the less that you have, the less frequent you're going to get paid out, and call it a day. Maybe some people only get paid once a day. Any printer doesn't have those minimums, and it'll still pay you. It just takes, however long it takes, depending on what your stake is. And they have a volume that's slightly higher than this one, but it's still on the low end. And it's been declining, but they still pay you the rewards. It's just on an infrequent basis. That's what should happen. Don't put a minimum in place. If they have the ability to get rid of the minimum, I would say it's the first thing to get rid of. Get rid of the minimum, change it to where it'll just change the frequency. If you have 3 billion or greater, it pays out every order. If you have less than a 3 billion, it'll just pay out once a day or something, because you're trying to optimize gas. I got you. I just think everybody should be entitled to this great benefit. That's how you sell it to people, is that everybody gets it. We're not going to limit it to the quote whales. That's not a whale amount, but I'm just saying the perception is important. There's an auto burn, so 2% from every buy and sell is auto burned to try to decrease supply. The problem, of course, again, is that the volume is dramatically low, so it doesn't do you any good. There's a weekly manual supply reduction, 1.5% of every buy and sell. Now, the problem is, according to the manual supply methodology, they're saying there's a fund. So basically, all these buys and sells, they redirect some of this over into a fund and then a wallet, and then they send to the dead wallet. Well, that means this is not going to really decrease, because again, you're banking on the volume that isn't there yet, or hasn't been there in a while. Because it used to be up, and then it had the same pattern. It spiked up high, and then it tapered off, and then it's been low ever since. And we can't blame what happened here in January and the whole issues with the gas coins, because December didn't have that issue predominantly. So, and this one was in November launch. So December didn't have that issue, but it was still down in December. So this one was affected by other factors. We can't just, I'm sure that was a compound effect, but it wasn't the only effect. 1.5% goes to marketing. I think and dev, I think that's very fair. I like that. Good. There's 1% for yield farming. So yield farming supply, of course, is to support the constant value and earning over time, again, because it's based on buys and sells. I don't know how much use it is right now. And then there's a buyback. The buyback is based on other things that haven't been built yet. So they're going to have a store, they're going to have a yield farm, kind of similar to the multiverse and others. NFTs, BODA swap, none of these exist yet, so it doesn't do you any good. It's good for the future, but it's not there yet. So people have been squirming about this, like, where are these utilities? Because we think that's going to help, but it hasn't happened yet. They're talking about creating a governance token so they can create a DAO. I support that. That's cool. They're talking about a lottery system. You know, I actually had a complaint with somebody online because I won the Any Printer deal. And they said, you know, shouldn't be a wheel, shouldn't be random, should be popular vote. And it's, you know, there's a reason popular vote doesn't work. It's because it skews towards a certain emotional aspect. Random has always been the best way to do that in something like this, where it's just a lottery of sense. Random has always been the best way to do that, to make sure it's fair. So when we're talking about something like memes, as an example, those are going to skew to your young kids and your millennials because they like the silly stuff that you laugh at, instead of, you might have things that are submitted that are artistically brilliant. You might have things that are submitted that are, from a marketing aspect, perfect. You might have things that are submitted that were unique, like it's a brand new something that we haven't seen before. All these should be considered. Your young kids aren't going to go after that. They're going to go after the funny ones, like the stupid little girl looking at the fire, or looking away from the fire, or the dog from Adult Swim talking about this is fine or whatever. They're going to go after the ones they know that they like. And that means that it's always unfair for everybody else who's trying to submit things that are fair. So if this is a true lottery system, I'm supportive of it, not one that's a popular thing. I like that. That's good, but it's not here yet. NFT marketplace isn't here yet. They want to do a locker, token locker, which looks like it's a staking type mechanism, liquidity staking mechanism. That's cool. Token Minter is for people who want to create their own contract and do some verification and try to make it a little bit more robust. Token minters, it's not unique. There's a lot of those minters. The only thing that would be a concern on this one would be whatever level of control you have on the contract that comes out. Because right now there are tools out there that can create contracts that are pretty darn powerful, that use the latest tokenomics, and you can manipulate them to the nth degree. How limiting is that one going to be? And then they're talking about an NFT video game. So this would be similar to something like Axie. Axie's not NFT, but you know what I'm saying. Or Epic Hero, that's a good example. So cool, it is what it is. But when I look at their roadmap, they don't tell me what's done and what's not done. Just looking at the list, it looks like they're a little bit behind, because they said Q1 of 2022, they're going to have the fiat on-ramp, swaps, farms, lotteries, NFTs, and all that. But then in Q4, which would have been December at the very latest, they were talking about partnership with an NFT marketplace. That doesn't look like that's happened. Billboards in LA, I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. Reward tracker, I think that did happen. Trust wallet looks like a no. So it looks, I don't know. Some stuff looks like it's done. Some stuff looks like it's not. So that looks like it's still in process, but they may be a little bit behind. So now let me get to the real reason that I wanted to record this now versus later. I said before, I think they have a good concept of community. They called out even, and I believe it was on their Reddit, they called out that they were moving their community aspect, and they initially apparently were really hot and heavy on Reddit. And they, in their paper on their Medium, they list all the different tools that they use, and they called out, Telegram and Reddit and Twitter, and they have a lot of platforms. Initially, they were very strong on Reddit, even though they didn't have a lot of holders. They were actively posting there, and for whatever reason, that's tapered off. So now, no longer do they're still there, but they're not actively engaging it. What they started doing was steering people to Discord. They, in their Medium, said we're no longer doing Telegram because it's garbage, it's a bunch of spam and crap, and it's true. So kudos to them for getting away from Telegram as a primary source. However, I don't know that I support using Discord as a primary source either. Let me tell you what I'm resonating with. When a user that's new to crypto or that isn't really deep in crypto and isn't in the bubble is looking for cryptocurrency information, they're going to go where? To a search engine. Search engines, in order for them to what's called spider or index information, it has to be flat information that is largely unchanging, which means your search engines like your Googles and your Yahoos of the world don't index Discord and don't index Telegram, which is another reason I don't like them, because you can't find those people from that source. But also, when you put it as a static piece of information on a Reddit, your web page, what used to be MySpace that doesn't exist anymore, but I'm saying something that's static, something that's not going to change, something that's always there. It means that we can always go back and reference it for history purposes. We can know what happened over time. When you're in the Telegrams, the Discords of the world, those chats just go spinning around. And people are like, just scroll up, deep, deep, deep. Those people have never used freaking Discord when you got tens of thousands of posts flying through at all times. You can't search it. You can't find a specific post you're looking for. So there could be relevant information that you missed. Turn on your alerts, deep, deep, deep. People outside of the bubble do not load freaking Discord on their phones or whatever. And certain people don't even use phones to do those types of chats because we are adults and we have lives. So no, that's not the right answer. The right answer is to make it as ubiquitous and accessible as possible to everybody. That means you need to update all of your sources with your key information. So what I'm saying is not to stop using Discord. I'm saying that when you have key targeted things that are happening, we're about to release the BODA swap they're talking about in 2 weeks. Create a post on Reddit. We're about to do this. Create a post on Reddit. Just create the post. And who cares if people chat about it there? That's fine. To me, your Discord should be used for things like support, maybe. Maybe you do your lottery there. But your announcements, I'm talking your key announcements of key milestones and targets, accomplishments, future state, whatever. Use Reddit. Use your website because they're static and people can search it and find it, and we can use it as a timeline reference, not Discord, not Telegram. That's my single feedback about their community, because other than that, I think they do community very well. I just think for whatever reason, them moving away from Reddit, I don't think is the right answer. I think Reddit should, in my mind, Reddit, their website should be the number one, Reddit should be number two, and Discord should be number three. If I were to tell them the way I think it should go. But like Twitter, same thing. You should have Twitter information because Twitter is searchable. So I'm cool with that. For your targeted key important information, I don't want to see, as I see on their Reddit right now, people ask a general question. Hey, what's going on here? Hey, join us in our Discord. We'll tell you all about it. Don't do that. That reminds me of the freaking strategy book. What the heck was that strategy book? Final Fantasy, was that Final Fantasy 11? Final Fantasy 9, the Brady Games Guide, Final Fantasy 9 on PlayStation. We want to know how to beat that boss? Log on to playonline.com and we'll tell you how. So people spend $20-something on a strategy guide that tells you to go to an online site to tell you how to do things. Useless guide. Go ahead and search it out yourself. Google it. It's a big thing. That's what that reminded me of. I don't want to see that. You need to have the information in multiple places. I know it's a little bit of a pain, but that's how social media management works. It's my only complaint about their community management aspect is I think you need to embrace Reddit because it's a searchable source in addition to Twitter because it's a searchable source. In addition to Facebook, it's a searchable source. In addition to maybe even YouTube, it's a searchable source. Don't just put everything in Discord. Discord to me is a secondary source, maybe for support or for basic chatting about let's say a new feature did come out. I think you should be using the live chat feature of Twitter Spaces. I think you should be using the live chat feature of Reddit. I think you should be using those sources because that may be where they want to go. And maybe they don't want to go to Discord because they don't put it on their phones because they're not in the bubble. So that's my number one feedback about community. Again, it's not a criticism. It is, I think you should move back from the initial strategy of going away from Reddit, go back to Reddit, keep using it as a strong source of communicating because that's how people are going to find you and that's how they're going to find your information. You can keep using Discord as a secondary source, but don't keep that primary. Other than that one piece, and you might think it's a small thing, but it's important because I don't think people think enough about how people find you and how people get aware of you. They're going to be using search engines. And so you need to use sources for the active communication that are search engine friendly. And I think that's where they fall short. And that's where I think some of the volume started to taper off because it's harder to find these guys. They put ads on PooCoin. That's cool, but you're assuming people are at PooCoin when they see the ad. The ad rotates and tons of other ads are showing up with these flokies and all this garbage. Santa Floki's been up there on major rotations. They spent more money than you. Don't rely on those tools. You need to get more spread. You need to get more ubiquitous. Fix that because without the volume, the reason I'm so adamant, without the volume, your number one benefit, which you put at the top of your page, which is this is a passive income thing and you're going to get Binance USD, is null and void. And if you don't have that, what's the reason somebody should buy your token? Do you see what I'm saying? So I want to help. To me, we need to embrace those other sources better than you're doing. You don't have to drop your Discord, but you need to reintroduce Reddit as a single source of information for these updates and communication. You need to actively encourage people to come there. You need to actively encourage people to engage on Twitter. You need to actively use the live chat features and all these things. Ideally get some more YouTube stuff going on. And I'm not talking about shillers. I'm talking about you. You get on video and you do those things. I know you had some members who created a podcast and their first one was about BODA. I think you guys need to get more into it and do your own videos about your project and what you're doing and what's happening and what's going on, what you're doing, so that it's more than just the Discord bubble. That's my opinion. BODA, BODA token.org. It is on the Binance Smart Chain. I like the project. I like the tokenomics. I like, as soon as they work right, I like the tokenomics. I love the white paper. I just think there's work that needs to be done from a community aspect, number one. And ideally, once the community aspect is properly fixed, you should start seeing increase in volume because there's no reason not to, because the tokenomics are good, but because the tokenomics are so directly correlated to awareness and being able to find the darn thing, I think they're only being held back by the fact nobody knows about this thing. And I don't think shillers is the right answer. I think it's just a matter of social media management and community management and embracing other platforms that are search engine friendly so people can find you. People will find my podcast, so they will be somewhat aware. Anybody that finds my podcast will be somewhat aware, and you'll see you're going to get at least some people that kind of take a look at it. As I encourage anybody listening to this, take a look at them. And you'll see in the tokenomics, there's really nothing fundamentally wrong with it. And it's a solid project. It's just, you're not going to really realize the rewards that you should because the volume is too low. The volume, I believe, is too low because nobody knows about the darn thing. So take a look at it. And if you think it makes sense, please, by all means, add it to your portfolio if it makes sense for you. But for the BODA developers and the team, my only concern, number one, I want the white paper, get rid of the TBAs and fill in information. But regardless of that, your community management, I want you to get back to static information, searchable sources, not Discord. Yes, we both agree Telegram sucks. Stay away from it. But no, I think you need to get back into your Reddit and your Twitter and everybody else and keep those as active communities and build them. Remember, Shiv rose to prime based on Reddit. Reddit was the key to getting the word out on that one because Reddit is where the vast majority of them were and were promoting. They used Discord, but Discord has never been the primary source. It was always about Reddit initially. Discord came later. That's what I want to see of you guys, because from everything I can see, you guys should be right there with them. So again, BODAtoken.org, take a look and see if it makes sense for your portfolio.